September 5th. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Please note for the record that all council members are present.
Report out from Housing Authority closed session and City Council closed session, please.
The Housing Authority met in closed session on real property negotiations concerning the potential sale of 4 contiguous lots in the up in the Brisbane, the intersection of San Bruno Avenue and Gladys Avenue in Brisbane, California. Council voted unanimously to bring that forward as a purchase and sale agreement that's going to be on the Housing Authority's October 3rd agenda.
Thank you. And just for a quick update, Clay is having a painful vocal cord situation, so Stuart is going to be filling in, and but Clay's still here just in case he's got to give some input. But you'll mostly be hearing from Stuart this evening. That moves us to the adoption of the agenda. Do you have a first and a second?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oral communications number 1. I have one slip from David Spooley.
Hi, all. Some of you I've always seen in the past, and a few not. But anyway, I'm David Schooley, San Bruno Mountain Watch. The group itself is about to be 50 years. And somewhere in the beginning of next year, March or so, there's going to be a whole set of hikes and gatherings and parties and things in all directions. So I hope you guys will be aware of that and come and join us in all that effort. But just before I go on more details about that, which may be another time, but a couple things are in their way right now. And one of those, I think you all received a letter from San Bruno Mountain Watch about the quarry. And this is something really critical for all of us, and I just hope that to hear from your point of view at some point. But onward, just to go on, is that there's other activities going on now before the new year. And one, for example, good things that in the past and still growing. One is in Daly City at the sand dunes, and one area is now protected, was given to us, and the other area is in a fight, and we're uncertain of how far it's going to go, and we'll see. But it's critical because it also has a shell mound, and a Native American village site in the sand dune. So this is coming up. South City with the Sign Hill, one area has now protected, which is a miracle, and there are two other areas that are now a question that have to do with the mission blue butterfly. So we're working on those. Levinson, I don't know how well you guys have been watching or thinking about Levinson and its silence for a long, long time. But we're now making some moves, and we hope, and I hope you all think about, the possible entrance along the Old Bay shore to San Bruno Mountain, a real entrance with a parking lot and trails going up onto the mountain. It's a perfect way. This is more than any other thing we're doing in Daly City or even Brisbane at this point, as an entrance to San Bruno Mountain. Anyway, this is a dream and a thought. There are also trails that we've been working on for many years. I hope that many of you will go for some of those walks. The dreams involved are now, and we're thinking about for the new year, is McLaren Park, a real trail connection of McLaren Park. And from Sweeney's Ridge in the county, there are golf courses that have a perfect place for a trail from San Bruno Mountain to that area. Anyway, there's a lot more, and I could do a lot more to tell you about, but I think tomorrow Supervisor Canopa is going to be, we're going to have a meeting, and it's going to be about the quarry. And some of these connections and things that we're about to do are rather important, and I will let you guys know there's going to be much more going on about that. And involved for the quarry, for example, are Trust for Public Land Conservancy and other meetings that we are now making contacts with. I mean, this is a big question as to what to do. I would hope that perhaps you guys could go for a walk around the quarry, and perhaps some of the other areas that are also so important. McLaren Park and Levinson and places like that. So anyway, there is a lot more coming up, and I'm just starting for now, and I hope that soon we can be in more contact with what's going on. The group is very excited by its 50th year, and it's a little bit overmissed for me, but we got to do it.
And Dave, if you could just give a little shout out to the pancake breakfast on Sunday.
Oh my heavens! Don't you all know?
Well, maybe people watching at home might
Right?
not know.
Okay, well, I'll be there at 6 in the morning, preparing a big gathering on Sunday.
So it's the pancake breakfast is where?
Oh, you don't know where that is? behind the fire department. So, and if anybody has questions, I could tell you.
And it starts at
6 o'clock.
no, not for you, but for the public to come and buy some pancakes and help San Bruno Mountain Watch and,
Would you like to
and
tell us
Mission
more?
Blue Nursery.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good thing that we've been done for a long time, and it goes on. I hope all of you can come
Yeah, no,
see them.
I'm sure we'll all be there.
And Saturday, there's going to be a trail work to be done, if anybody want to join. Anyway, thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Dave.
So I believe it's Sunday, 9 to 12, pancake breakfast, 9 to 2, native plant sale. And what is the address? Because that I don't know.
Sunday
Mission
or
Blue.
Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Sunday, okay.
It's on Sunday, and it's the San Bruno Mountain Watch
3.
Annual Pancake Breakfast. Yes, 9
It
to
is-
12.
I just don't know the
And plant
address.
sale, right?
Native plant sale.
And-
The nearest address, I think, is 3445 Bayshore. That's the fire station. But you turn into it
Yeah.
after you come through Bayshore Old County intersection.
Kids are $10, adults are $15.
Blackberry syrup from the mountain.
Blackberry syrup and
Yeah, you bring
sausage.
your special recipe, Terry?
I made it on Tuesday, so
Nice.
yep, there's
All right.
Ready to
Lots
go.
of- lots of blackberry syrup.
Great. Okay. So, any other members of the public wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing no hands, we'll go ahead and move forward to presentation. Adult Education, College, Career Educational Leadership, ACCEL, San Mateo County. Come on in.
Honorable Mayor Davis and City Council members, my name is Dr. Corinne Holder-Jackson, and I am the Executive Director of Excel San Mateo County. We are a consortia of the 5 adult schools and 3 community colleges in San Mateo County. We are a part of the California Adult Education Program. And the California Adult Education Program was formed because California, as you know, has the highest rate of immigrants as opposed to other states in the United States. So we were formed so that we could help these individuals have a level of literacy so they would be able to be economically sustainable, that they would absolutely have an opportunity to become citizens, to understand their civic opportunities and responsibilities, but also to provide value for their families and also for our communities. And most of all, as I'm sure you can understand, we have a great need for leadership in our country. And so we would love our students to be leaders in their communities as well as provide value for their employers. Because of time, I have slides for you, but I am not going to read them for you. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of our program and why it's necessary, and why we're asking for your help to receive more funding. There are 71 consortia in California, and we just happen to be the one for this particular region. EXCEL is an acronym for Adult Education, College, Career, and Educational Leadership. Our mission is really to support students' transition to be whatever they want to be, whether they would like a college career, whether they would like to have short-term career technical education, or if they just choose to be great parents and help their children with their schoolwork. We know that in our educational system now, we have this process called core curriculum. And so if you are an immigrant, and we have found that many of our students are only educated to the 3rd or 4th grade level, when your children come home with Chromebooks and they say, I need help with my homework, parents aren't able to do that. And so we are trying to change the cycle of poverty that these parents have and to create a welcoming, warm environment so that our students can come and learn and hopefully help their children become all that they can be here in America. In our schools, we teach English as a second language. We teach high school equivalency, so you can come to the adult school at 18 years old or above and receive a high school diploma, GED, or HiSET. We also offer low-cost career technical education. Because many of our students are undocumented, I found that we are pushing for entrepreneurship as a way for our students to be successful. We offer courses in dental assisting, pharmacy technician, hospitality and tourism, front-end web developer, and many others. Some are offered online, some as a hybrid. We try to offer the classes in the morning as well as the evening. A typical adult student is someone who can be between the ages of 18 and about 55. Our students often work 3 jobs. As you know, it is very difficult to find housing here. It's expensive to live here. But many of our students are working low-wage jobs. So it is my job to find a way to create opportunities for our students to be able to upskill, to be able to earn stackable certificates, and to help them create a career development plan so that we can take them from where they are now to where they'd like to be. The California Adult Education Program is funded by the government. It was formed as a result of AB 86 and 105. However, that funding is just a little bit challenging because it's just quite not enough. We have to serve 7 program areas. We are currently in about 3 of those areas because we need more teachers, we need more funding, and we need a little bit more space. The program areas that we are focusing on now is ESL and citizenship, career education, pre-apprenticeship programs, and adult training to support child school success, really helping parents help their children be successful. That we are looking to, in 2020, begin workforce reentry. So those of our citizens who will be coming out of the justice system, how do we help them reintegrate into their communities, but how do we help them find their skills, their passion, and then how can we get them training and then entry back into the workforce? Our consortia, as I said, is comprised of the 5 adult schools, 3 community colleges, but we also have the County Office of Education as our member. We have membership from Daly City through North Fair Oaks, and also we partner with each of the community colleges. We also partner with the Novo Workforce Development Board. As you know, San Mateo County no longer has ROPs, so we are now trying to encourage, I'm strongly encouraging, our adult schools to look at and do a survey of their communities, find out, working with the Workforce Development Board, looking at the labor market index, what jobs are going to be plentiful and how are they growing in the next 10 years. And let's begin looking at what opportunities are available within each of their school areas and their surrounding communities. And let's work together with labor and industry so that we can create curriculum for entry-level jobs that have upward mobility and economic stability as well. But if you look at the need in our county, you will see that our total population, according to the last census, was 718,451. But it's startling that we have 253,000 foreign-born, but 103,000 near poverty, and 121 that speak English less than well. The problem with this is that if you speak English less than well, you are living near poverty. You have so many barriers, and one of those barriers not only is language, but it's also the digital divide. Technology is driving our workforce today, and today more than 50% of the jobs in California require skills higher than a high school diploma, but also we need you to have excellent reading, comprehension, and math skills. Our challenge is that many of our employers are asking us for skilled employees who have the ability to communicate and communicate well. But funding is really an issue for us because while the funding creates opportunities for us to offer high school diploma, GED, and ESL classes at no cost to our students, it's very expensive to create career technical education. Our classes are low cost. None of our classes cost more than $1,500, as opposed to our for-profit partners, such as Carrington College. I have many students who come to me who have spent $40,000 to be a medical assistant, but yet those units are not transferable nor acceptable at any California college. So our problem is we are the best kept secret in San Mateo County. So we're asking for your help today. I would love to have more employer engagement. We are looking at the areas surrounding our county. Biotech is a big industry, but we'd like to get some of our people, some of our students prepared to be able to walk into an employer and offer value at an entry level. But how can we do that without the employers at the table? I've been in this position for 2 years. And when I first came, my first job was to evaluate, assess, and come up with a strategic plan. And my plan, first of all, was to get all of our schools to come to the same level with our high school diploma and GED so that when our students leave our adult schools, they're ready to go to community college and be able to not only be there and sustain themselves, but to thrive in that environment, that they have the requisite skills, that we're all the same, and that we're training them so they can become valuable not only to the school, but to their communities, but also to their profession. But we'd like to have an advisory board because we realize that as technology is changing, employers don't really even know what they want because the jobs that we are preparing our students for in our colleges today, those jobs might be gone tomorrow. I'm looking at the economic forecast and it says that we will be in a recession by the end of 2020. Some jobs will be gone. So how do we get in front of it? How do we talk to employers, bring them to the table and say, tell us what you need. How can we give you the skilled employee that you want? And so how we then can take that information and create curriculum so that together we can give you the skilled worker that can make it in a 21st century technology-driven environment. So I'd like to create an advisory board. I'd like to have industry. I'd like to have small business, entrepreneurship. Let's come to the table and let's talk about it. We'll bring our educators, the Workforce Development Board, and together we can change this situation. I do not want to see a perpetual poverty cycle that will happen with our immigrants and most of all with our middle class, which you know is disappearing. Come and visit some of our steering committee meetings and you can find out about our new strategic plan, which we have just completed, and our vision for the next 3 years of where we'd like to take it. The greatest thing that my vision is that we will create an opportunity for people who don't have one, for the marginalized populations. I want to see our students in our communities be able to choose where they live. I want our students to be able to go to college if that's what they so choose, and not be able to not do it because now the California's chancellor has said that there is no longer remedial education in the community college. So therefore, you must have a B or better in intermediate algebra to be able to enter credit-bearing math classes. But yet, while we're studying Common Core, we know that every public school is not the same. So we need more funding so we can hire more math teachers so we can step into the gap for that. My vision is that we will have an educated, skilled workforce, and we can do that if we all work together. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Corinne.
That's great.
Any
Where do
questions?
you have your meetings?
Our meetings are at the San Mateo Adult School. Every third Monday of the month, we have lunch for you at 12:30. Our meetings begin promptly at 1 o'clock, and I'll do my best to get you out by 2:30.
All right. And where's that located? In San Mateo?
San Mateo Adult School is at on Poplar Avenue in San Mateo.
I have a question, Madam Mayor, if I may. Yeah, Dr. Jackson, thank you so much for your presentation. Mine has to do with today's environment. There's a lot of hatred going around, with, especially with, I'd say, people who don't hold a citizenship, and may be here illegally. Do you find, or do you see that as a problem that, maybe some folks in the ESL that would really benefit from the ESL program may not want to deal with any type of government agency?
I find that to be true, yes. Many of our students have many barriers, and some of them are medical, some are financial, and although we have resources, we use a warm handoff to create great partnerships within the Human Services Agency. Many of our students will not take advantage of it because they are concerned about the way our leadership has now said that if you are undocumented and you take advantage of services, then that could possibly be a barrier to becoming a citizen.
Yeah.
So many of our students have not come back for the registration. We have 5 levels of ESL. We have transition navigators and coordinators there at our campuses to assist, but it's difficult. So I try to assure them that we are a safe zone, that really, to be honest, we're all immigrants, and we may have some problems with our communities for our reentry.
Yeah, that
Our
the
people
information's
coming.
not being fed to ICE, or something.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
yes.
that is, it's got to be a concern for, folks,
It's a big concern. It really is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
All right, thank you.
That brings us to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve consent calendar items A through E?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Oh,
Well-
I do have just a quick question for Ms. Jackson. I know you talked about funding. Are you trying to seek funding from cities,
No,
Is that-
we receive funding from the state of California, but we also receive funding from WIOA. I have been looking for grant funding. I have searched 643 foundations for adult education. I have just found one grant so far from a family foundation in Foster City that I'm applying for this weekend.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, old business. Consider introduction of ordinance number 638, amending chapter 12.12 of the municipal code establishing private tree regulations. This item is being continued from our council meeting on May 2nd. Staff report, please.
Yes, thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, as you indicated, the council did consider this in May of this year, and at that meeting, it was referred to the planning subcommittee, composed of council members Cunningham and O'Connell, for additional review. So I'm going to walk through some of the issues that were sort of in question, both by the subcommittee and by the original council discussions, as laid out in the staff report. One was the scope of what constituted a protected tree. There was a discussion whether or not that should be limited to certain native species. The current ordinance protected both tree by species type as well as by quantity. If there are 3 or more, those were considered a protected tree, as well as trees that were planted as a condition of a city approval. So that was unchanged between the current ordinance and the draft ordinance. And based on the subcommittee discussion, there were no additional changes recommended at this time. So we're recommending the language and be unchanged like it was in the May hearing. Then there was a discussion at the council about what constituted enjoyment of the property for purposes of making a finding to grant approval of a permit. And there's a little bit of a discussion in the staff report, the legal kind of implications and meaning of enjoyment of the property, whether physical harm to a person or their property, disturbance or annoyance, interference that causes economic loss or depreciation. And again, there was some discussion in the staff report. Some of these forms of harm are already covered in other findings, but to give the city some leeway in the decision making, the city attorney suggested that the finding be revised slightly to say that the tree unreasonably interferes with economic or other enjoyment of the property. So adding the word unreasonably to give the city some latitude in that judgment, not just any sort of disruption or interference. It's an unreasonable interference, and that would be part of the findings process when an application is made. There was a question about fire hazards and whether the fire department had reviewed the draft ordinance, which they had, but we revisited it with them again, and they did have some additional standards they're recommending be imposed in part of the ordinance, that the consideration be given to the placement of trees so they don't interfere with access, as well as to avoid trees that pose a fire risk due to high oil content. So those would be prohibited as part of this additional language. Subcommittee also had a discussion about violations of the ordinance and really wanted to maximize the potential fine to discourage people ignoring the ordinance or removing trees without the proper approvals. And we kind of looked in that. Typically, administrative citations are scaled, fines $100, $200, $500. But there is some language which I wasn't aware of when we met with the subcommittee that was already embedded in the language into the ordinance, was that the violator may be charged with a fine equal to the value of an unlawfully removed tree. And when you start getting to very large trees, the value of the tree is far going to exceed those citation amounts. So basically under the ordinance as written, the city probably has more financial control or incentive than we would under the citation findings, because you're removing a large tree. That's definitely a four-figure cost to replace that, and so I think we do have a lot of incentive or authority over that matter. So we didn't feel the need to revise that. The next option would be to move into the misdemeanor, and that ends up in issues of jail time and incarceration, and that's not normally how we enforce the municipal code, so we weren't recommending we go that path. And then there are some questions about the cost of compliance, and we estimate that under the new procedures of permit would probably run in the $400 to $500 range for a processing of a permit for city staff time, and that the typical requirement to replace on a one-to-one basis with a 15-gallon tree, could be a $500 cost per tree replacement. So you can order a magnitude of what it might cost somebody to comply with the ordinance and go through it. So with that, staff is recommending the introduction of Ordinance 638 as attached to your staff report, and I'd answer any questions you might have.
I have a question. I'm not sure if I just missed it in the staff report, but someone can pay, right, if they're removing a tree and to relocate a tree somewhere else in the city, and how, in the maintenance, I'm assuming, then falls on the city to maintain that tree wherever its now new location is.
That would typically be the case, yes.
And so have we thought long term about building, is that cost built in if they relocate it somewhere else, thinking about not only the cost of the tree but maintenance going forward?
Well, certainly any tree that were going to be replaced in the public right-of-way or public property, there'd be a consultation with the city staff who would be maintaining that particular new installation. So we'd be wanting to look at locations that are not going to be high maintenance down the road, both in the species, the type of tree, and its location where it's going to create a nuisance or an undue burden for the city to maintain over time.
And does the resident have a say in, let's say there's a list of acceptable trees, do they get to pick which one, or is that up to the discretion of staff to determine exactly what kind of tree it will be?
Typically, the applicant has latitude, and we want to work with them to make sure that what they're proposing, is non-invasive, obviously, and non-fire risk. But other factors we want to make sure they're considering are size and growth patterns, because again, you want to create a tree that, through its growth pattern, is going to be a nuisance 5 years or 10 years after planting. So we try to work with them to help them in that selection process.
Okay, those are all my
I have clarification on that. If a tree is going to be relocated on city property, that would be the city's choice. The
Right.
property owner would not have latitude on saying, I want a willow planted on this city property.
That is correct.
That's what
yes.
I want to make sure.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Then I get to pick the kind of tree from a list. It's just up to you. Okay. Any other questions?
I have none.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Thanks. So, in regards to the fees to get the permit, so you think that it'd be approximately $450, but it also said that it probably take less than an hour's worth of time.
I think that was currently, it's less than an hour, and under the new procedure, be slightly more time.
All right, and
Notifications that we don't do currently and other sort of requirements.
yeah, okay. So then, was it discussed with the subcommittee in regards to, if you have a high fee, that might discourage people from coming forth to the city to let them know that they want to severely trim a tree or cut it down?
We didn't talk about that specifically, but I mean, there's sort of a philosophy of cost recovery for permitting, and if the city for some reason wants to exempt this particular activity from cost recovery, that's certainly your prerogative. In the grand scale, if you're removing a significant tree, a $400 permit fee is nominal compared to the cost of removing a large tree.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know that
10,000
we're
or
considering
more,
this
yeah.
a major cost burden for someone who has a significant investment of their property in removing a tree.
Okay. And then I didn't see it in the staff report, but I thought in our discussion there was talk about like a neighbor could, I guess, block his neighbor from cutting down a tree. I thought that we had some kind of discussion about that.
No, you're talking about blocking their view?
Yeah, or just
No view ordinance.
yeah. Well, I don't know so much about that view, but like someone could just like really love that tree, that's in someone else's yard, and then
Oh, yes, I remember.
I thought we had a discussion about that, and that was one of the reasons why I went back to the subcommittee.
Well, the
But I didn't see it
ordinance-
in here.
Yeah, there's provisions, I believe it's on page 6 or 10, however it's labeled. Decision on application and notification.
Oh, okay, it's in here.
That once if a permit is going to be granted, then someone has a 7-day appeal notification, and they have the ability to appeal that approval to the city manager. So there's a built-in provision for appeal already.
Okay, and then it was the city manager that would determine whether or
He'd be the
not.
final arbiter of those, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, I'm ready to move forward on it.
Okay. Is that a motion to introduce ordinance
It is
number?
a motion.
I'd
Okay.
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did want to just say thank you to the staff and to the open space and ecology and all of the people that have worked on this, because I know it's dear to our hearts, and it was nice to work with Councilmember Cunningham on working out some of the issues about flammability and about encroachment onto other people's property, and sort of hash that out. So I think it was a good discussion, and very little was changed in it going back to subcommittee, but I think they were small changes that added a little bit of clarity. So thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, there was a lot of hard work went into this one for sure.
Great. Thanks for working on it. Okay, so item B, consider approval of resolution number 2019-56 to update the master pay schedule. Staff report, please.
Yes. So this is an item that we bring forward to you because we had the tentative agreement signed on July 18th, 2019. Everything got adopted. The background for this is on November in 2016, CalPERS issued a circular letter saying that we needed to put forward a single document that showed everybody's pay rates. On May 17th, 2017, the city started complying with that by doing the master pay schedule in order to avoid future issues with PERS going forward. So today you're having the master pay schedule in front of you. And just one more time to reiterate it out loud, because CalPERS likes us to say this out loud as often as we possibly can. The city manager's pay is reflective of the $119.39 an hour that was adopted. The confidential management, city clerk's executive management, and everybody else's pays are listed in the master pay schedule and have been increased as per the TAs that were agreed to. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Do I have a motion to author?
Motion to approve resolution number 2019-56.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to new business. Proposed zoning text amendment floor area ratio exemption for garages on small lots. Staff report, please.
Yes, the zoning ordinance currently establishes a maximum floor area ratio of 0.72 in R1 zones. Further provides when a lot is less than 3,700 square feet, a covered parking space not exceeding 200 square feet can be excluded from the calculation of floor area. City Council referred this matter and provision, referred it to the Planning Issues Subcommittee, which discussed it in July of this year. At that time, the suggestion was made that the city should consider increasing the garage area that can be excluded from the FAR, or floor area ratio calculation, as a means of increasing the supply of available off-street parking in residential areas. Concerns were expressed that increasing the area of exclusion would increase building bulk and scale without necessarily guaranteeing that additional parking would be available for vehicle storage, not other uses. So while the subcommittee may not have come to agreement on consensus on the issue, both members were agreeable to referring the matter to the Planning Commission for additional study. So we're looking for a recommendation or for the City Council to direct this matter to the Planning Commission for a potential code amendment. And I defer to the subcommittee members to add their comments on this.
Our 2 cents worth.
Go first.
I just wanted to say that when we discussed it in subcommittee, both of us realized that there is a lack of street parking, and that it would be great if cars got put in garages. We were unsure if increasing the exemption for a larger garage space would accomplish that, and so referring it back to Planning Commission to look at those realities if allowing more excluded space would increase in off-street parking was our general goal, because for me at least, I think that it's hard to tell what space is going to get used for if you approve it unconditionally. And so I wanted to have it looked at in depth by people that sort of understand how the logistics of buildings are, and whether it would actually result, or if there would be a way for it to result in more garaged vehicles instead of just more storage space for stuff.
Following up on sorry, go ahead.
So, just so everybody knows, we did have in this ordinance 400 feet and it was reduced to 200 feet. And I do believe the reasoning behind that was that people at that time on the city council didn't want monster homes on lots. Well, on these smaller lots, on a 3,700 square foot lot, you can't put a monster home, so that's a moot point there. I would like to at least see us trying to get more cars off the street. I mean, our parking problem right now is beyond ridiculous in many places. I spoke with Lisa earlier in the week and asked what complaints we were getting, and we're up to about 300 complaints per year almost.
About parking?
Of people parking and people using our streets as commercial parking lots, people using our streets as San Francisco Airport's long-term parking lots, et cetera. So I think really we're going to have to start looking at parking permits moving forward, but also trying to get people to get their cars off the street would be awesome. And taking it back to the 400 feet would be, my idea of being the correct way to go. John, do you have the date that it went from 400 to 200? I meant to bring that piece of paper and I forgot.
I believe it was around 2000.
Yeah. So we had a 400-foot exemption, and then that was just reduced to 200. So I'm hoping it'll go back to 400 and we can get more cars off the street, hopefully.
So can you say that that if somebody did build a 400 square foot garage, that never in the future can it be transitioned to, or one of the garages be transitioned to like another bonus room or a bedroom or anything like that?
Certainly, yeah, I mean, the easy part is things that require a permit, because we're not going to give somebody a permit to replace their required, or eliminate their required parking. The problem is, the things that are more casual, where a garage is not
It's full of
used
stuff.
for housing a vehicle, it's used for storage, and I think that's some of the problem here is in behavioral enforcement through the zoning ordinance is a very complicated task here.
Can you require that it must have a driveway that can at least fit a car off,
It won't always be able to have the
Yeah.
length to have a,
right?
so that's, getting there is going to be a site-specific kind of issue.
I think we're not supposed to work it out amongst us right now. I think that's
No,
what
no,
it's
no.
just to pass it
Yeah.
on to the planning commission.
Right, if I may, Madam Mayor, instead of, giving the planning commission specific direction, I think that I would prefer that they have an organic discussion to see what they come up with.
Yeah, I agree.
If anything, or, a recommendation, because it's a growing issue, and with ADUs now, it's just probably going to exacerbate, even though ADUs typically aren't supposed to have cars, but the way Brisbane's designed is like, can't keep that much from happening unless we start going through a permit program. And, this is going to be probably a discussion ongoing for future councils and planning commissioners until it's resolved, or, you get, at some point, you're going to reach a saturation point where just everybody's so frustrated that, something's going to happen, whether it's, really, what did they say, draconian from, and that would eventually involve code enforcement and everything that goes along with that, so.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Is that a motion to authorize the planning commission to take a look at this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Was that a specific enough? Okay. Now we're moving on to staff reports. City managers report on upcoming activities.
So the first one is the pancake breakfast that has already been talked about. There it is from, as it was already reported, 9 to 12 for the pancake breakfast fundraiser, and the native plant sale is from all the way from 9 to 2. The blueberry pancakes will be served with, as we found out, Terry's syrup. So I encourage everybody to show up. And there is a theme in today's announcements. They're all involving food.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That's
We
what
like
I was
that.
thinking. So the next one
Huh?
is on September 14th from 1 to 3. We can all get ice cream at the Friends of the Brisbane Library Ice Cream Social. And that will be held at Mission Blue Center from 1 to 3 on September 14th.
That's
And
a Saturday, right?
That is
Yeah.
Saturday, and the goal is to help build the new library, so donations for the new library would be greatly appreciated. My understanding is at this point, they are somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000 raised out of their goal of $100,000, so they're doing quite well, but
Yep.
not quite there yet. So there's still time to donate a little bit more.
Eat lots of ice cream.
Eat lots of ice cream. The next one is, once you're done with your ice cream, from 1 to 3, you then can go to the Fall Fiesta for the Brisbane Village Helping Hands. So we want to make sure you're well fed on the 14th. And that will be at the Sunrise Room at 2 Visitation. There will be food, fun, and friends there. So please show up. So once you're done with your ice cream, go enjoy some chips and dip. Moving on to the next one is the next weekend after you've had all that good food in you on the 14th. You move to the 21st where you can then do a volunteer day and help do a coastal cleanup, so you get to burn some of those extra calories. But what would a Brisbane event be without snacks and lunch? So
Coffee.
and coffee. So the idea is to meet near the Sierra Point Yacht Club. The shuttles will start at 9:30 for that. And we appreciate San Bruno Mountain Watch, Recology, and South San Francisco Scavengers who are helping to sponsor that, so we can provide this food, snacks, and the stuff we need to clean everything up. The next one is also on the 21st. So after you've done a little bit of cleanup, go to the free event for the Disaster Preparedness Day at the San Mateo Event Center from 10 to 2. So there you're going to learn out how to prepare for a disaster. And again, it's food and event are free. However, parking is $15, just to let you know. But free food again. The next one is it's September is National Preparedness Month, and we're doing an earthquake preparedness class in North County, and then they're going to be doing that on September 28th from 9 to 11:30 in the Serramonte Library Community Room at 40 Wembley Drive in Daly City. And again, there will be the class is free, but you must register to attend. And we have the website, which is northcountyfire.org. The last one is the day in the park in the Derby. The day in the park starts from 10 to 3. The Derby starts at 8. And we will be having Derby practices. Derby practices are on Saturday, September 21st, and Saturday, September 28th, and those are from 9 to noon. And again, this is one of those events where there's food, and we really appreciate the Lions Club for their delicious food that they have at the event.
There's Madison face painting.
Yep, there's me. There's my head.
And Madison is going to do face painting.
I will.
So that is all of the announcements we have, very food oriented.
That's what I like to hear.
Me too.
The next item on the agenda is the creation of a City Council ad hoc subcommittee regarding the city beautification and funding. This has been an area that has come forward, and we keep getting more and more issues that are raised relative to the appearance of the town. And there's always trade-offs, and what we would recommend is that the City Council create an ad hoc subcommittee to talk about city beautification and how that can fit into the funding with the budget. So the goal would be is to have that be brought back with the budget in the June meetings, and just to have an idea of how do we do the trade-offs. If you want to do more street sweeping, how does that impact not only the budget, but also how does it impact parking on the streets, which we've already heard is an issue. But there's other items that we talk about, which is like planting of trees. It's how the medians look. So there's a lot of issues when it comes to city beautification that we've had many concerns about, and we would like to talk that with this subcommittee in order to be able to present a good program when it comes to the budget.
Okay, any takers?
Me.
Okay, we've got one taker. Who's the next taker?
Come on, Terry.
I have too many committees. Oops. I think I have too many committees right now.
I have the most committees, that's for sure.
Take another one. You're young.
I'm like 22.
Cool. Sorry.
If you would like, we could just work with one. I mean, it's unusual, but we could work with just one council member and bring something back with the budget. Because at that point in time, everybody in the city council would be hearing what the program was.
I have a split personality. It's okay.
Yeah. That's good for me.
Is that Michael, we're good
unusual.
with just doing one?
Yeah, I mean,
As long as it's not
as
three,
long as
right?
it's not a majority, you could have, one council member could be a committee.
I mean, it's better to have two, because the more voices you have, the better the decisions usually are.
Excuse me?
Perhaps this would be something that we could see if there's a member of the public that would like to work with one of our council members.
Or maybe one of the other commissions or committees.
Open Space and Ecology or Park and Rec,
Yeah.
one of those committee members to work with the council member.
Sure, we're open to anything, so we can open it up, and at that point in time, as long as we don't have a majority from any one, we can maybe suggest having somebody from open space and ecology and somebody in parks and recreation, so that way you get a broader spectrum of
Yeah.
what you're looking for.
Yeah, maybe somebody from G3 might want to sit in
Yeah,
the
I'm
meetings
sure somebody
too.
from G3 would probably
It would
wanna
be an
put a voice.
open meeting, so
So
if
anybody
somebody
can
from
come.
G3 showed up, we'd be more than happy to have them participate.
Cool. All right, sounds good. So Karen, we'll go ahead and be on that subcommittee.
Karen?
There is no
Thank
food for
you,
that one
Karen.
though, Karen, not like the other events we're doing coming up in the,
I'll bring food, it's good.
okay.
Okay, Mayor Council Matters, item A, countywide assignments and subcommittee reports.
Goodness. We've been off so long.
Can I talk about last Saturday with BPAC? Not really a subcommittee, but I think it's really important for us. So last Saturday, the BPAC traveled to all of the application areas for the grants, and we put in an application for the walkway between right where Sierra Point and San Benito come down to Alvarado. So keep your fingers crossed that actually, we get awarded the money to do that. And it was very interesting. This morning, I was actually driving back along San Benito and Sierra Point at about school time. And I wished I just had my camera and could be taking pictures of how many children were walking down the middle of the street, because there's no other way to get to
Yeah.
school.
It's a blind
And
curve.
it was amazing. And so keep your fingers crossed that the BPAC vote for Brisbane. Of course, we know we have one vote, but it was a very interesting thing to go look at all of these places that are quite dangerous. Pacifica was pretty stunning, what they've allowed to happen down there, and so that was very interesting. And I can't remember what else we've done in the last month because my brain wasn't really there either. But this was very, very exciting. It was an exciting day. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, did you do that with other members?
Yeah.
So other members got to see the situation, you were able to talk about it?
The entire BPAC were there.
Wow.
Everybody was there.
Okay.
And some of the people who walked down the pathway, they started talking about surprise art and little bits of public art, on that space, and that got people very excited. So besides the safety aspect of that walkway, which is outrageous, it got a lot of interest from some of the members who actually walked that path. So
That's great.
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, thank you for, applying for that position. Because, when you're there, you can talk about the finer details.
Yeah.
And where the kids are walking to go to school.
Well, I saw it firsthand this morning, and it was
Yeah.
shocking.
But, sometimes, other BPAC members, they just go, oh, well, this is kind of a not very busy street. How many people are really going to use it? And it doesn't seem like it's a high priority. And so it got passed over. When there was some funding, it was, there were three proposals that are at the bottom of the list. And that was one of them. Of all the county applications that were submitted, the three Brisbane ones were at the bottom.
I think the city did an amazing job at putting the application in and, really expressing the dangers of the kids having to walk on the street. Karen did a really great job on the day, Karen Kinzer, doing her presentation, so it was great.
How did Carol Masamoto feel about the need to improve that stairway?
I think she was amenable to it.
Okay, good, because she likes to, be very
Why don't we
opinionated.
leave that one there?
So for the safe routes to school, doesn't the route go in front of Madhouse?
I don't know that route.
'Cause I think-
I do know that if we repair that grade and the kids can actually walk safely down there, it will take, I think, a quarter of a mile off some of the kids walking on streets to school.
Because I think the safe route, like not just the stairway, but I think one of the routes is going from Visitation in front of Madhouse and then onto Alvarado. And in just thinking about that, I just don't know how walking in front of Madhouse parking lot in the morning is going to be, in my mind, it should really be, the kids should go down Klamath and up.
So shouldn't we bring that up to the
Yeah.
street committee then?
I think that part of the route might need a look over because
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
I feel like indicating that a safe route is to walk in front of Madhouse parking lot in the morning at our busiest
in a
time
hurry.
when people are not in a rush, they're backing their cars up, they're not paying attention, or kids maybe have headphones in, they're not paying attention. I think that actually probably is a terrible way to funnel kids up to BES. So I think that we might want to have our Complete Streets take a look just at that portion of the route.
How do we initiate that, Stuart?
We'll pass that on to Karen to
Okay.
have her bring that back.
Okay.
Okay.
Kind of reverts back to item 9 on the agenda,
Oh,
all the cars.
yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, this morning it was, right in my face.
Yeah.
Kids and people on their dogs and, driving so slowly down San Benito because you didn't know who was going to pop out of where.
Okay. So it's not time for public comment yet, but if you can make it brief.
I was not going to mention something that was very important to me, and it would happen later on. But for all these years in Brisbane, there's been nobody working on trails. And I thought, because of the acres in Brisbane, there are beautiful trails that have been there for years, and other areas. And those need a lot of help and a lot of care. And most cities do have trail workers. And the dream for Brisbane would be that approach.
Okay, thanks. So normally we have a list that says what meetings we had. I don't have my list. So we'll have to all get out our calendars to remember what we did since mid-July, I think.
My calendar is blank for July, but I don't know why, but I'll give a rundown of some of the committees that I had in
Okay.
August. So in August, we had a cannabis subcommittee meeting
Right,
with
we
Mayor
did.
Davis and I, and we met with NorCal Cannabis, I'm probably saying their name wrong, and they just did a meet and greet on their coming into Brisbane and wanted to introduce themselves. And then I had an airport roundtable meeting, and we are going to be trying to get together with, in the technical working group, and have some of our citizens really work on some of the data on route changes and possibilities for alleviating some of the noise over Brisbane. There was also a large discussion about bringing in other roundtables to the San Mateo, San Francisco roundtable, and we were again reminded that that would require a change in our charter and approval by all the cities to that change. As a note on that matter, they are doing runway closure for 20 days starting, I believe, on Saturday to do some runway repair work. So we may be hearing some different airport traffic for the next 20 days, and their fly quiet procedures will be shortened. So at 6 a.m. we will be getting more flights over Brisbane for the next 20 days, but hopefully that is just a temporary basis while they do their runway repairs. And then I had an airport land use committee, and we approved a project that is in Daly City outside of the heavy noise impact area for some housing. And let's see, I think that's all that I remember on those.
Okay, well, Karen and I had a liaison to the Park and Recreation Commission meeting, and we chose the Volunteer of the Year. And this year, we've also decided to add a Youth Volunteer of the Year award. So going forward, we will have an Adult Volunteer of the Year and a Youth Volunteer of the Year. And we're going to order like a rock and put the Youth Volunteer of the Year plaques on there.
Rock?
Smaller.
Junior rock?
Yeah, junior rock. And they're going to have some type of community honor, which we haven't figured out yet, but the Adult Volunteer of the Year will still light the Christmas tree, and we're trying to find something comparable for the Youth Volunteer of the Year. And Karen and I also had 2 public art committees meetings, and we reviewed submissions, finalized our top list of artists for the skate park wall, and then we had the interviews of those finalists, and we settled on a choice, and that was a process to get to, and half the group was vehemently in support of one artist, and the other half was vehemently in support of another artist, and both groups were vehemently against each other's top artists. So we ended up choosing everyone's second choice, because we all hated each other's first choice. So you will be seeing that in October, who we chose as the person who will do the art. So, is there anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to sum it up as best as I could. And then, what else? Hold on, I'm going through. Okay, you already mentioned the cannabis subcommittee. And, let's see here. You had an education subcommittee meeting, but I wasn't at it.
That's true. So, are you finished?
No, I'm not, but that's where I stopped in my calendar. Should I just keep going?
Yeah,
Go
why
back
don't
to
you
that one.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just make sure. Oh, we had a meeting with Jackie Spear,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about what's going on with high-speed rail, and how there seems to be some inadequacies in high-speed rail's EIR, and how they've evaluated what needs to be done in terms of remediation to the landfill. And so we kind of sought Jackie's advice on how she could help us navigate like this process that we are facing with high-speed rail and the state. And Jackie's position was more that because this is a state issue, she really can't get involved because she focuses on things at a federal level. But she just recommended that we continue to move forward at a steady pace, and she feels that our moving forward with the project will settle some of these things out pretty quickly. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you pretty much accurately, framed her position. It was just that we should focus on developing the site that, to our liking, right? What we think is, the community's vision, partnering with the developer. And, if ISP Rail decides to come in at some other date, then so be it, but really just stay focused on what we want.
Right. And then were the four of us? Yeah, the four of us were in attendance. Myself, Terry, Karen, and Cliff were in attendance at the recent Baylands workshop. And they kind of outlined some of their ideas regarding the lagoon and the open space plan and transit networks. And then they gave opportunity for the public to kind of respond to some of these ideas and put stickers on pictures of things that they liked and pictures of things that they didn't, and then also play around with like little sort of puzzle pieces essentially to kind of create your own park with the roundhouse, the lagoon, and then other areas of like Ice House Hill, other areas of open space. So it was interactive and just a way for the community to kind of give some input. Anyone want to add anything to that?
I think I'll add just one thing, that this was put on by UPC, by the developer, and they were really looking for community input. I think that we had pretty low community turnout, and that it would be good for more community to be there, because this is what they're going to look at moving forward on what they think Brisbane wants. And really, it would be better if the public was more involved in that, because then we may have an idea of what community really wants. So I was a little disappointed that it was less well attended. The council and staff that were in attendance were just as observers, and so we couldn't really interact with the developer at that point, and it's really important that the public does that.
Agreed.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, so there was a education meeting with the financial consultants, and just looking at potential funding opportunities based upon the development, looking at the various school district potential configurations, and they're going to come up with some draft scenarios for the subcommittee to take a look at, and then I guess we'd ultimately, Clay, bring that, or Stuart, bring that before the full council. Okay, yeah, for final, go ahead.
Right. Anything else that you had?
Nope, you mentioned them. Thank you.
Okay. And I meant to say this at the beginning, but I'm going to say it now because I forgot. We are so happy to have you back, Clark.
Good to be back.
Great.
So I had one other, not to ruin his accolades, but we are glad to have him back. Yeah. I also did have a local policymaker group, which is Caltrain and High Speed Rail group that met, and we went over the Caltrain new business plan and their prospective growth and how they are going to achieve that growth. No decisions were made, and it appears that the local policymaker group that is for this coming month was canceled for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why. So, that's it.
Okay. All right, moving on to city council meeting schedule. So it's being proposed that we cancel the city council meetings of September 19th and also January 2nd, because nobody wants to be here January 2nd. So I just want to confirm that everyone's good with those suggestions.
Why the September 19th cancellation?
Well, Cliff is going to be out of town,
Okay.
and it's a light
Okay.
meeting. So I figured, if we can have less meetings, we should have less meetings.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're going to, because it's light, we can just put that stuff on the next meeting.
Okay.
And it'll be fine. Okay, so that brings us to written communications. And we received the following correspondences. Dana Dilworth on July 18th regarding the election sign ordinance. Winefield and Associates on July 22nd, recommendation to Cal EPA. Clara Johnson on July 30th, thanking us. And Michelle Salmon on August 13th regarding STRs and ADUs. So that brings us to oral communications number 2. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council at this time?
And we did receive David Schooley's information, but was that after the 5th of September? Oh, okay.
We received a letter from Mountain Watch.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it didn't go through. Okay.
Yeah, it might have already been addressed. I think it was already addressed.
Yeah, it was the one regarding the quarry, and yeah, it was in my box.
It was in the box. I don't think it was addressed. It was after our last meeting, but it was talking about San Bernardino Mountain Watch's vision
For the quarry.
the quarry and the possibilities of parkland and open space and those kind of things, and it was beautifully written.
Yes,
Thank
we
you,
did.
David. It's
receive-
always wonderful to see the inspirational side of what Mountain Watch and other community groups can do. So thank you.
Yes, we did receive that letter. Okay. So seeing no hands for oral communications number 2, I'm going to move to adjournment. Do I?
Move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.